Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation magazine. December, the holidays, almost here. It's been a long 2020. I know a lot of you out there, boy, have we earned this holiday. Can't wait for 2021 to come in. Thank God the vaccine's getting distributed. People are getting shot, the frontline workers. Everything's looking positive. The election, it's still going on. I think they're still finding ballots in some places. I don't know. It's crazy. So, but eventually, we'll know who the president is in a couple of weeks. So, may the best man win. I've been saying that for 5-6 weeks now, but I'm still going to say it. So whoever wins, wins, and we'll go forward. You know what? The sun's always going to rise tomorrow. I know some people are going to get hit by snow tomorrow, but I know the sun's going to rise here. We're going to have rain here, but it's going to rise. And there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's the end of the year. This has been the craziest year ever. I can't wait to just close 2020 and get into 2021. I know a lot of you are with me out there. So this is our last podcast of the year, and I've saved this, the best person I've known forever. You always save the best for last. That's all I can say. So with us tonight, we've got an awesome person who's the Senior Business Development Associate for an ADA architecture firm out of Tulsa, Oklahoma called the McIntosh Group. This young lady's name is Miss Karen MacCannell. So say hi out in Tulsa, Karen.
Hi, David and friends.
Yeah, long time no see. You know, it's been a while since I've seen everybody in person. So we really appreciate finding the time to, come in and be a guest on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. And the reason why I had Karen on is, first of all, I've known her forever. They're on my board, so we've known each other a while. But they actually, with all the redesigns and prototypes that are coming down the pike, are actually getting launched because of COVID. And even after COVID is done, there's so many stuff that's going on that, from a design point of view, in ADA, they're intertwined. And I think this would be a really good discussion as far as what they're doing and helping people deal with the reopening and the reality of how they actually have to run their business. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. So Karen, with that said, we kind of have a set template here. You got to tell us your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, how you got in with, TMG, and then we'll talk a little about, business, and then, we'll close it out. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your saga.
No pressure, David. Excuse me. That's a hard act to follow. And yes, we have been friends for quite a few years, and it's a relationship that I cherish, and I'm very honored to be part of your group and your inner circle, and the people and relationships that we've made through your organization and through your events. Just immeasurable. It's just been fantastic. So Karen, as my father would tell you, he saved the best for last. I am the youngest of 10. I was born in Amherst, Nova Scotia, Canada. And at the age of 9 months old, my parents moved us from Eastern Canada to Southern Alabama. And my dad—
Whoa, what a change, huh?
Exactly. Now, I was too young to know, but I'm, as the youngest of 10, my older siblings, I think, struggled with the move. I adapted quite well, but my dad and his oldest nephew, my dad was a doctor, his nephew followed in his footsteps. They opened the McCannell Clinic in Dothan, Alabama. And I spent my first 7 years in Dothan, Alabama, and learned to talk down there. So I am probably the only one in my family with a somewhat of a twang in my accent. Right now, I'm not sure what my accent is because I've lived at Central Illinois for a long time. And now I'm back in Oklahoma. So I kind of have a mix, but I moved to Oklahoma about 30 years ago and moved to Tulsa probably 23 years ago. Came here for a job with a friend and offered me a position when I needed one, and it was at a staffing company. And I worked for him for 7 years, and 9/11 happened, and one of our largest clients was impacted greatly by 9/11. And so we were all out looking for new jobs, and I got hired by a international staffing firm and worked locally for 3 years, and then got hired by my largest client and went to work in the administrative side of a RV dealer. And while I was working there and thinking this really wasn't what I wanted to do with my life, I got a call from my friend Brad Gaskins. And Brad and I had been friends at this point for probably 15 years. And he called knowing I didn't work in staffing, but knowing that I knew people who did, and wanted to know if I could recommend a staffing firm for him because they needed to hire someone. And I said, well, tell me about the position. And so Brad talked to me about the position, and I asked him some questions. And then I said, well, Brad, do you think this is something I could do? And he paused in the typical Brad way and said, I never thought about it, and I'd have to think about it because we were friends for such a long time, non-professional friends. He and his wife, before they were married, his wife and I were good friends. We all belonged to the JC organization. So civic club, going out, doing good in communities. And we were all three in different chapters within the state of Oklahoma. So we'd known each other working projects, running meetings, traveling around the United States, promoting good things. So working together, I think in his mind, he was like, I'm not sure because we are good friends. How would this work? So we talked about it for probably a week or two. And then we said, let's try. And he introduced me to Lanny McIntosh, who is our founder and Brad's partner. And I was offered the position. So 15 years later, here I am. But my first position at McIntosh, I was hired as part of the Pizza Hut Wing Street conversion team. And I was, I believe my title was project manager, which I'd never heard of before this. I mean, it was all brand new.
Yeah.
So I came in as a project manager, and the Pizza Hut Wing Street conversion program, which was already in full force when I started, and I think lasted an additional 2 years after I started. The McIntosh Group met with Pizza Hut International, and we ran the program, the conversion program, which was 1,500, give or take, locations across the United States that were becoming the dual brand, the Pizza Hut and Wing Street.
Sure.
So my job each week was to coordinate and organize the construction calls. So, and I reported directly to the Pizza Hut director of construction. And there were I want to say 7, 8, maybe 10 markets in the United States. Each market had its own architect. The McIntosh Group was architect on some, but not all. And then we had 4 or 5 other architects, I believe, throughout the time. So there was always an architect, a sign vendor, lighting people, the construction people, the design people. Everyone was on these calls. And then I tracked all the information and once a week reported back to Pizza Hut with where we were in the project. And our main goal was to get them open.
Sure.
Always before Super Bowl Sunday. That was one of our biggest pushes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So multi-year program, we finished it. I think my firm was, pretty pleased that I came in with no background in this and was successful and learned and did everything that I needed to do and then some. And when it was over, Pizza Hut reached back out to Lanny and Brad and said, now we want you to take this program to our franchisees. So I was handed a list of franchisees and somewhat of a script. Just here's what we're going to do. Here's what the Pizza Hut Wing Street conversion looks like. And we also worked with them to develop what they called a Wing Street Light, which meant a franchisee did not have to make as large of an investment as Pizza Hut corporate was making, but could still bring it into the dual brand. And I was good at it. I was very successful. I was talking to, making these calls into franchisees, cold calling, which, everybody hates. I hate it, but I enjoyed it because I like talking to the people. And I really believe in who we are and what we do. And I had seen what we have done with the corporate. So worked that program for several years. And during that process was fortunate enough to get to go to, and I forget the exact initials, but it's the International Pizza Hut Franchisees Association, and it's their annual spring conference. And we're talking a huge conference. And
oh yeah, they all have them.
I had ever been to. So I would go and represent McIntosh at these with our owners. And I think they kind of saw how much I enjoyed meeting new people and talking to them, and just how easy the conversations were for me. And so fast forward to not this year because we're not traveling, but I kind of became the trade show queen, so to speak. And any of our national clients that have trade shows, I always went with the design team to kind of start the conversations and help coax them along, the young people, as they're working with their clients and stuff. So something that I really enjoyed. And so now I'm kind of the expert on people and clients, and have really enjoyed my role as I do business development, but it's more about relationships and just building friendships with people that I've met. And I mean, I have so many, I call them friends. They could be clients, they could be competitors, they could be other consultants.
Hey, we're friends on social media. We're clients, but we're friends. I like your stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love it. And, I consider so many people that I've met through you and your groups and your events dear friends of mine. And I think and I know that that's what makes me successful, is it is more than just a job, and it's more than just talking to, it's getting to know these people and getting to know not just what they do, but who they are. And so that kind of brings me to 15 years later. I sit here as Senior Associate Director of Business Development, but on our org chart, Laney calls me clients and people. That's what he refers to me as. So.
I always tell people, if you don't know, ask, and then you'll know. So looking
Exactly.
back, way back when Brad and you were on the phone and you said, hey, is this a job you think that I could do? If you didn't ask that question, you would have never known, and you might have never even been hired, and
that's true.
I always tell people, if you don't know, ask. And then you'll know where you stand or where you are. It's one of those things. So it's just a simple question. Hey, do you think I could do this, or do you think I'd be a good fit? Or it's just a simple little thing. So that's an amazing.
Yeah. I learned the hard way. You don't get what you don't ask for, and it was a hard lesson. When my friends in high school, I was shy in high school, and I know you're probably going, there's absolutely no way, because you don't know that, Karen.
Yeah.
But I was painfully, miserably shy in high school. I had my circle of friends my honey badgers, we still get together once a year.
I just saw that picture on Facebook, the honey badgers thing. I just saw that. Yeah.
We do Zoom calls, try to do it every week, but sometimes it's every other week now. But our high school group, and it's been many years since we went to high school together, but I think they've enjoyed the progression of Karen and who she's become. But my family would always tell you this is what I would do, is something, because I've always been a talker in my family. So
yeah. So looking at this year, obviously in the beginning of the year, I always tell people, hey, look, there were, we did our event in January. It's my 10th anniversary. Did our first CCRP down in Florida. Did the tour of the Cocoa Walk. Cranes are up everywhere. People are busy. Unemployment. I mean, everything was booming. And then the bug comes in, and Tom Hanks gets the bug, and everything gets shut down. No one knows how long it's going to go. Now we're looking at 8 or 9 months. It's still here in December. The vaccine, hopefully it'll work. But, depending on what state you were in, determined, like, here in Georgia, we were kind of shut down, but not. But we were the first ones to really open up. Out west in your state, you were kind of shut down, but you were still open. If you were up north, you were shut down, or out in California. So it really depended on where you were demographically in the country. But really, no one knew. It was kind of like when 9/11 happened. It was devastating. I was in New York. I still remember that. But plane stopped, but there were still restaurants open, and the country was still going on. It was psychologically, devastating. When the crash happened in 2008, still the country was still there. Restaurants were open. A lot of people lost a lot of money. It was mentally draining, and this was completely different because everything was shut down, and people had to learn how to cope with it, as well as how to keep their businesses running and how they were going to reform themselves. So talk about your process, and you don't have to mention any brands or anything, but just in general, how you went about dealing with, since your business development, you're a client person, how you went about, did you stay in house? Did you telecommute? How did you use Zoom? In your company culture, how did you guys deal with it from when it started in March till today?
Okay, well, in March 3rd, I don't know that I knew what Zoom was. And now I'm kind of a Zoom, I'm not gonna say an expert, but
Yeah.
I do a lot of Zooms for fun, for work, for inner office. So we, probably the end of February, we started talking about this and internally. And very 1st of March, we reached out to our external IT company and asked them, could you verify that we have the bandwidth that if we needed to, people could remote in? Could you verify that everyone has the capability to access the tools they need from their home? We made sure that everyone had the equipment they needed, and most people had a PC at home. Those that didn't, we found equipment here that worked. And we started kind of just testing, never thinking we would ever go to the depths that we went to, the lengths that we went to. So I went out with friends on St. Patrick's Day, and we were just all kind of going, this is just the weirdest thing, and what's going to happen? And oddly enough, we went to a Mexican restaurant, a restaurant that we love, a non-chain, it's a local restaurant. And they did St. Patrick's Day like I've never seen St. Patrick's Day. And we were like overwhelmingly surprised in how fun it was. And we're like, we're coming back here next year. Well, the next day, all of our restaurants in Tulsa were shut down. So, yeah. And so we're like, okay, that was weird. So our office, Lanny McIntosh and Brad put the message out to anybody that if anybody was scared, if anyone was hesitant, if anyone did not feel comfortable, that they could work from home. Now, keep in mind, for the 14 and a half years, we had never encouraged work from home. We feel like we're a very collaborative office. We feel like what we do, you need to
team gig.
You need to be here. We work in I'm in an office right now, but typically our design team and our production team, they're all in a very open floor plan. They all have their area and their space, but we learn so much from each other just by conversations. So that was something that was very new to our entire firm. Almost everyone went to work from home. Now Laney owns our building. We're a 3-story office building. We have one other tenant, and she has one office space, but we take up 3 floors. We're not big, but we take up 3 floors of this building. I worked from home for half a day, and it was like, I found myself too distracted. I couldn't do it. And so I came into the office, and one of our other senior leaders, Mark, he called and said, I really think I need to work from the office. And I'm like, come on in. And so it kind of became a struggle of what's our protocol? Because then we didn't know what protocol was.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't know what it was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was no, I just knew you couldn't buy toilet paper and Lysol. So, but what does that mean to us as an office? So once we kind of figured out, I'm on the first floor, Mark's he was on the 3rd floor, and Brad sits on the 3rd floor. Well, Brad, who is a road warrior, and he travels all the time, Brad was abruptly in the office and was not comfortable for him. He did not enjoy it. He loves being on the road. So we started talking, and one of the first things that we as a team did was we developed Q talks, or quarantine talks. And we did a series, I believe, of 4. We spaced them out every 4 weeks. Kept thinking that this is going to be over and we'll all move on. But we did ADA webinars, and we did them, set them up on Zoom, and we sent them out to people that we've met through your conference. We put them on social media, and we probably had an average of about 80 to 90 people attend each week. And we did AIA CES credit. So they got, anybody that needed it got continuing ed. And then if you were a non-architect, we sent certificate. So it was a lot of work for me, but it was good to keep Brad sharp in his skills. And it was good for us to offer something back. We didn't charge, we did it as a free service. We just felt that it was important to be able to do something and give back. We also started doing, we came up with we changed our logo. So our logo is our McIntosh emblem with a mask. So our little M has a mask on it. That I reached out to the lady that does our marketing. Is she actually the one that offices with us, and said, I saw one somewhere and I really liked it. And so they came up with ours. And so we used that, and we discovered pretty quickly that we didn't lose a beat. We didn't drop any balls. We didn't miss anything by people working remotely. If anything, I think our communication increased within the office. Everyone had to be more intentional about reaching out and asking the right questions and having the conversations. So I think we as a senior leadership team were overwhelmingly excited and happy with how well, because again, we were not an office that encouraged work from home. We just have never felt that that was good. So we did the Q Talks. We started doing fun social media posting, and we have people, show us your workspace, show us your dog, show us your cat. And we started taking cute shots and posting those on social media and on, here's what we're doing. What are you guys doing? And just trying to keep it light and keep it fun, but also keep it relevant. Our office started doing weekly, before we went remote, we did our first Zoom, because we always meet once a week in a conference room, all of us. We go over our forecast, we go over numbers, we talk about what's coming up, and then we delegate, assign, who's going to work what projects. We did for probably a week. I don't know if we did 2 weeks before we all went remote, but we did a Zoom while we were all sitting here in the office, and we just chose not to go in a conference room and sit side by side. And then the next week we went home. So we did 3 Zooms. We did our Monday Zoom with all team, and then we did a Tuesday just check-in. We're not talking about work. How are you? How's your family? What's going on? Are you okay? Do you need anything? And then we did a Thursday Zoom. And we did that for probably about 6 months. And now we're 9 months into this, 10 months into this. And at about the 7th month, we kind of we're running out of things to say to each other. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine.
I got
Family's
stuff to do. Leave me alone.
yeah. So we dropped our Tuesday call because we saw each other Monday. And I say saw because we all get on Zoom. And then we do Thursday. But our Thursday one, we now have a table topic. Last week it was name an interesting building that you've seen somewhere and what impact it had on you. And it was really fascinating just to hear from our coworkers. And of course, a lot of them are architects, and they they all do a semester abroad. So their scope is a little wider than my little, I've been to France and Canada and Mexico. So, but I mean, it was fascinating. And then people were screen sharing and showing these buildings that they had traveled to. And then we did that on Thursday, and yesterday we were still getting emails of, hey, I found this photo. This is the one that I took when I was in Rome. And this is the one I took when I was in, wherever. So it's been fascinating to kind of see how our firm internally has evolved just from, starting out 3 calls a week. Now we're doing 2, but I think we're closer, which is hard to believe because we're further apart, but I think we're closer as a team than we ever were, just because we're learning so much about each other.
So many firms that I've talked to have gone through the pandemic that have never thought they would ever have people work at home, that they're more productive. The water cooler jibber jabber is gone. They've still maintained their corporate culture, and that they trust their employees that they're going to get stuff done. And they don't have the wear and tear on going through rush hour. Obviously, Tulsa's not like Atlanta here, but rush hour here is brutal. And I was like myself, I was working out of the house. But I was just talking to a guy last week, and he said, in one day I was in Bahrain. I wrote about it in my column about Zoom. I said, in one day this guy was in Dubai, he was in England, he was in Latin America. He did several site visits with PMs in the States. And before COVID, he could never have done that in one day. And I really don't think I think, once the pandemic is healed, we're social animals. We're not built to be, like we are now, or in caves. We're built to go out and so forth. But I really don't think a lot of companies they're going to let you go on the road. But I don't think it's going to be the way that it was, where you go, yeah, sure, go down to David's event in 3 days in Florida and hang out. And, when they know that they can do this here and get the same amount and then and be more productive. And they've taken those travel budgets out of their budgets, and they're making money. So now they got to put that back in. How many companies do that? I don't know. For myself, I was pretty much a face-to-face guy. So after the pandemic came, I was a print and I was doing face-to-face. So I was completely frozen out. And I put my March, April issue out, and I had kind of some sleepless nights. And then we had a team meeting just like you guys did. My art and my edit. I go, what are we going to do? We're bi-monthly. Let's go digital, small press run, more of a print. I was going to do one podcast a month. Now I do one a week. Do one email a week. Now the magazine goes to 125,000 people. We printed it on a digital printer. You got the new copy of the magazine. It just never looked nicer. Right. So for me, I don't have to deal with the post office anymore. That's like a 5th century organization. You don't know what it's like dealing with those guys. I'm glad I'm not dealing with them anymore. And so many companies out there, contractors, vendors, brands, they've all had to embrace this. Now, when it comes back, it's like a pendulum. It swung very, very over to digital. Now it's going to come back. How far? I have no idea. And so it'll be interesting to see. But like I said, a lot of people are used it, and it'll be interesting to see that how much that they've embraced it. They'll say, hey, you know what? You don't need to make that trip. I can do that here. Right. And so it'll be real interesting to see how all that. But you'd be amazed at how many companies never thought that they would have people working at home. Mm-hmm. And it's been good for traffic. It's been good for you're not burning gas, and mentally. And I've been working on my home, so I've been hunkered down, so it didn't affect me at all. We've been virtual forever. I've had a digital magazine for almost 15 years. I never knew I had 14,000 pages of content. I was just a print guy. But then I found out, my SEO guy told me, he's like, Dave, you got all this content. Now I have 1.5 million visitors going to the site every month because everybody's at home on the web. But it's just insane. So uh, it, it's a very positive story that knowing that you're going into the unknown and that you've embraced it, and now you can use this technology, but still you can go out on the road. Brad, I'm sure he's still traveling, right?
He is back on the road. He was off the road for, I want to say 2, maybe 3 months, but he,
Yeah,
I love Brad,
yeah,
but now he travels. We have a lot of clients that, I mean, most of our clients, business, we weren't sure, we didn't know the unknown. We didn't know what was going to happen.
hmm,
But most of our retail clients, it's somewhat business as usual or a new business as
right,
usual.
hmm,
And so he has been flying. I talked to him this morning. He said it was 23 degrees. He was in Nebraska outside doing an ADA survey.
hmm.
Patrick Golden, our other owner, he travels, but he drives everywhere. So he was in Atlanta. He drove from Tulsa to Atlanta this week. He is not comfortable flying. Brad is more comfortable flying. And right now, no one else is being asked to fly at our firm. And
Hey, I'm a
Lenny
million
probably
miler.
would rather Brad not fly, but supposedly it's safer right now than even driving. So,
As a million miler, I don't miss flying.
yeah.
I don't miss it. I drove up to Ohio for my sister's 60th birthday. I told my son, I said, look, we're gonna drive up, and by the time we get up there, we're only looking at 2 hours. By the time I get to the airport, go through security park, we're gonna be there anyway. And so I normally 5 hours is my limit. Anything over 5 hours, I normally will.
I'm a 4-hour girl. So,
Yeah. So 5 hours is mine, but now it's probably going up even a little higher than that. But like I said, now I have this, and I don't really, but believe it or not, your phone is still like the best thing. You'd be amazed at how many times I'll play email and I'll say, hey, do you have a second? Let's have it. It's much easier to chat on the phone, and you can talk to people on the phone versus Zoom. The phone is actually a really good tool these days because you do so many of these Zoom calls. Having a nice phone call without a picture is very, very cool too.
mm-hmm.
And I just feel that you got to look at everything. And so with the company, with the country moving out, you guys have held your own through the pandemic. Uh, you're obviously, I presume that you're bullish on, coming down in 2020 when it looks positive and so forth. If you were going to leave one word or phrase for our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk, what would it be?
I think it would be transformation. And we kind of rebranded slightly a few years ago, and we are McIntosh Transforms. But and I think it's because there's so much that is unknown right now. I mean, 9 months into this, we still don't know where we're going to be in 2 months or 3 months. Kids are still out of school. One of
Mm-hmm.
my friends works for a national insurance company, and she told me last night they told her she's going to be remote through March. Um, our doors are open, but we're not encouraging anybody to come back. We don't know what the reality is for 2021 yet, but scientists say it's like 66 days, 21 you hear, but 66 days to actually change a habit. And we're 9 months into this. And do we know what the new habits are of people? And I know people are trying to respond to the, shop from home or drive up and pick up. And that's, really changing. And retailers have really been responding in restaurants on changing what they look like and how they look. And it's, consumers are still in lockdown. There's a lot of them. I mean, Tulsa, we got our vaccine, I believe late yesterday.
Yeah, we got
And
to land there. Mm-hmm.
our first person to get a vaccine in Tulsa was an ER nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to hit us. But are all businesses, are they ready for this transformation? And do they know what it looks like? And how can we make our consumers and customers feel more comfortable? And I think that that's something we all need to look at.
Hey, transformative. Listen, I went from a face-to-face print guy to a digital maniac, and now it's my wife's like, you know what, you really need to get on the road. I'm like, I'm kind of
Yeah.
liking it here, babe. I kind of like hanging out. And she's like, you really need to get on the road. I'm like, I don't think I'm getting on the road right now. I'm liking just the way it is, and um, a lot of the companies that they're all going through the same thing. They're just, so, uh, I tell everybody, hey, wash your hands, don't touch your face, make sure you have your surroundings, you'll be okay. If you do get sick, if you get the bug, 99% of them are you're probably going to make it. And God rest all the souls that passed. And I know several. There was a guy in Vail when I was in college out at the University of Denver. He was playing at this his guitar, at the après ski, got COVID. He was like 77, 78 years old, and he passed. And he was like a landmark in Vail. I was so sad when I saw that. And I'm amazed I remember that stuff because I was probably drunk off my tail, from skiing at après skiing, stops and stuff. But anyway,
I
my
would
party
expect
day.
no less.
Yeah. But anyway, he passed. So I know people that have.
Yeah.
And it's such a sad thing. But getting back to business, you won't even recognize what retail looks like 5 years from now. I mean, everybody, we just posted something, I think it was an El Polo chicken. I forget what the restaurant was, but it was just drive-through. They didn't even have an indoors dining. It was just drive-through. And it's amazing, I had an architect, we had a theater guy, and they were talking about how movie theaters were getting back into the drive-ins, and that supermarkets are going to become just distribution centers. They're going to have like a little showroom in the front. You're just going to drive. 5 years from now, who knows what it's all going to look like, but it's all positive,
Right.
And some of the stores that were going to close stores, they were going to close them anyway. This was just kind of a catalyst for them to push it. And I hate to say it, for all the people that see those doomsday things in the paper or online, oh, so-and-so is going to close so many stores. That's not bad. But if you read down 4 or 5 paragraphs, oh yeah, but they're going to open up 40 new ones.
Right.
So with us, in our industry, it's kind of every 3 to 5 years, they got to reinvent themselves anyway, because if they don't keep their stores looking fresh with new fixtures, new paint, hotels with new carpet and so forth, there's too much competition that that the consumer has too many options, and they've got to keep things fresh. And that's great for you because you guys are both architects as well as you've got the ADA gig to deal with to make sure that everybody is accommodated, to, no matter how you're built, whether you're in a wheelchair, if you're walking, or all that kind of stuff. So, and if I'm not mistaken, I think you landed your biggest client from one of my events. Am I right? I have to pimp myself, but
Yes.
right?
We were at one of your events.
You don't have to mention the brand.
No, we were at an event and Brad spoke, and we were in Florida, I think. And we still work. It's been 5, 6, 7 years ago, and we still work with that client and have a wonderful relationship with them. So,
yeah,
I mean, I can't say enough about you and your groups. I've always been your biggest cheerleader.
Well, Karen, you're the best. If someone wanted to get in touch about ADA services or architecture, or just, talk about cool buildings, how would they get in touch with you?
So our website is McIntoshTransforms.com. My name is Karen MacCannell, and my email is KarenM@McIntoshMC Transforms, McIntoshTransforms.com, or 918-585-8555. And when you have a commercial construction vodka talk, can you sign me up for that one?
Oh yeah. Actually, for our summit this year, we're virtual, obviously, and we're only doing it a couple hours a day. I'm not doing any of those fake trade show halls or any of that stuff. I've got a humorist for 15, 20 minutes, and then we go into our tabletop for an hour. And the second day, on the 14th of January, I have the CEO from Quest Workspace. Laura is going to talk about 2021 for 15, 20 minutes, and then we go on our one-on-ones. But then I'm ending it with a mixologist who's going to teach how to do it for 10, 15 minutes, how to do a thing. And I'm going to say, see you later, and we'll catch you next time. And that's going to be our event. So you can, if you don't attend, I'll give you the link. You can come in and see the mixologist. I don't know what he's going to make yet, but I know that's our gig. But I'm actually doing it at a studio. So what's really cool is it's over by Home Depot's headquarters on the west side of Atlanta. this guy has a studio that June does her comedian stuff on Zoom. And it must be, I asked her, how do you do that when you can't,
No
have people
feedback.
yeah, or like feed off the audience? Because,
Yeah.
well, they've got these monitors so I can see people. And he also said, so I'm going to do my event there. So I'm actually going to be on a stage, and I'm going to introduce her, and I'm going to run my thing. So people are going to be like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. And I'm going to have a live audience in there too. So it's, anyway, but we're going to end up with the mixologist and go from there. For myself, if anybody's out there and you want to get in touch with me, you can get best place, David C at ccr-mag.com. That dash is a little hyphen. If you're not a subscriber, you can go to my website at ccr-mag.com and you can hit the subscribe button. We'll get you added to our digital mailing list. Like I said, I say 125,000. It's probably 150. I'm going to hit probably 200 this year. That's my goal to get it out there. And upcoming, I've got FPL Sports. They've got 800 locations. They're the largest sporting goods retailer out of Canada, which they're part of Canadian Tire and Marks. And she's a female director of construction. And she also they're one of the largest sporting goods retailer in the world. So that's coming up in December. And so if anybody hasn't seen her magazine, go on the website. You can see them. They're all digital. I go back 5 or 6 years. You can see all the different issues that we've done. Actually, Karen has one of her custom pieces I have up there that we did with the transformations pieces that you did, about 3 of those a year. So they're up there too. So you can see actually some of her projects that in the past. That's on the toolbar there. You'll find it under advertising. It says custom publishing. You can see what her firm's all about. So with that said, to everybody out there, happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Festivus, like Seinfeld said, and all that good stuff. Enjoy the holidays, with your family and stuff. Don't listen to these freaking governors that all, you know what? You got one life. We're all going to end up in the same place eventually. Have some fun with your family. Laugh. 2020 is going to be closed. We're going to look back at this and say it's been a learning experience for everybody. I always look at the glass half full, not half empty. It's been an amazing ride this year. I mean, talk about roller coaster, and just, between this and that and the election and 2021, I don't know how it's going to outdo 2020, because this has been the most amazing year ever. I've seen so many people prosper and create new businesses and this and that, and new friendships. It really has been an unbelievable year, and I'll remember this for the rest of my life. And I've actually shaved my bait. I'm very clean shaven today. I had to go to the dermatologist, so I shaved everything off. Normally I have my COVID beard, so it's still kind of here. But once the vaccine comes in, I'm shaving and it's gone. Then I know that it's done. So with that said, Karen, thank you so much, and tell Brad go OSU and go Cowboys.
Thank you, David.
And listen, for everybody out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, if you want to find these podcasts, I do them on Spotify, Google, and Apple. I also have them posted up on our website, and we also stream them on our social media. And if you have any cool projects, send them to me. It's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. If you don't send me something to look at, I can't post it, or you can never know what might end up in ink or in the magazine. So send that stuff to me. We're always looking for it. And once again, you need ADA or any cool architecture expertise, Brad, Lanny, Karen, they're the best. They will take care of you, and they'll get it done right the first time, on budget, and done right. Right? Am I right on that?
Absolutely.
All right. So Karen, I want you to say goodbye from Tulsa.
Goodbye from Tulsa.
Say happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
All right. And I'm going to sign off from Atlanta, Georgia. My name, once again, is David Corson. And this is our last episode of the year for 2020 for Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Thank you, everybody that signed in and has viewed all of our episodes. And hopefully I haven't been too obnoxious. I've been learning as the time goes on. And we look forward to seeing you in 2021. And once again, wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Make sure you're shining. You're going to be okay. And with that said, everybody, have a great holidays. Karen, I hope to see you soon. And we're going to sign off. All right? We'll talk to you later. All right? See you, Karen. You're the best.